Welcome back, everyone, for another deep dive into today's top stories. It's Tuesday, January 28th, 2025, and we've got a lot to cover today. A real blend of market mayhem, tech tremors, and even a dash of political intrigue. So let's buckle up and dive right in.
Sounds good to me. The markets are definitely keeping us on our toes today, particularly in the tech sector.
Yeah, starting with that Nvidia roller coaster. I mean, a historic drop yesterday and now bouncing back with a 5% rise today. It's wild.
Yeah, it's enough to make anyone's head spin, for sure. And this volatility really stems from some growing anxieties surrounding the AI sector, specifically a new AI entity called DeepSeek.
Right,
It's causing both excitement and fear, leaving investors a little bit uncertain, whether it signals a genuine technological leap or an impending AI bubble.
I see. So with all this uncertainty swirling around AI, what questions should investors or just, the average person be asking themselves?
Well, I think it's important to look beyond the hype with anything like this. Ask yourself some basic questions like, what problems does this AI actually solve? Does the company have a proven track record, a sustainable business model? And equally important, are there any ethical considerations?
Right, the ethical implications are huge and can't be ignored.
Exactly. Answering those questions can really help you cut through the noise and make more informed investment decisions.
That's a great framework to use. Speaking of impactful figures, Elon Musk is back in the headlines again.
It seems like he's everywhere these days. His company X, formerly Twitter, of course, is venturing into financial services now through a partnership with Visa.
So users will soon be able to manage their finances, transfer funds, and make peer-to-peer payments, all within the X platform. It's a bold move for sure, but isn't there a risk that X becomes too sprawling? Losing focus and potentially facing some serious regulatory hurdles. We've seen other tech giants stumble when they try to do too much at once.
Yeah, that's a valid concern for sure. Integrating financial services into a platform primarily known for social networking. What's a complex undertaking? It'll require navigating data security concerns, regulatory scrutiny, and the challenge of gaining user trust in a whole new domain. It'll certainly be interesting to see how they tackle these obstacles.
Absolutely. And the implications for user privacy and data security are huge. And while Musk is diving headfirst into fintech, the White House is taking a step back with a freeze on federal aid.
This freeze is intended to refocus resources on President Trump's conservative agenda. However, it's sparked debate about the potential consequences for essential programs and services. Some praise the fiscal discipline, while others express concern about the impact on vulnerable populations.
It's a classic example of how political decisions can have those far-reaching economic and social effects. But at the same time, the government is embracing AI in other areas, like with this new ChatGPT Gov platform.
That's right. ChatGPT Gov is a tailored version of OpenAI's chatbot. It's designed specifically for U.S. government agencies. The goal is to leverage AI for increased efficiency and innovation in government operations.
It sounds promising in theory.
Yeah.
But doesn't this raise questions about data security and the potential for bias in algorithmic decision-making? Government agencies handle highly sensitive information, and the stakes are incredibly high.
Yeah, you're hitting on a crucial point there. As AI becomes more integrated into government functions, we need robust safeguards in place to ensure data security, transparency, and accountability. Addressing those concerns is critical for building public trust in AI-powered governance.
Absolutely. Now, shifting gears to corporate earnings, JetBlue stock took a nosedive today after a rather bleak revenue outlook.
They're facing a perfect storm of challenges right now: rising fuel costs, ongoing restructuring efforts, and a potentially softening travel market. All contributed to their disappointing forecast. The airline industry is notoriously cyclical and susceptible to economic fluctuations, so JetBlue's struggles reflect these larger headwinds.
And in contrast, General Motors beat analyst expectations for earnings, yet their stock still fell by 10%.
Investors are clearly looking beyond the present. They're anxiously awaiting GM's 2025 guidance, specifically how the company plans to navigate the new Trump administration and its potential impact on trade policies and environmental regulations. Uncertainty about the future is outweighing positive present-day performance.
Interesting. It seems uncertainty is a recurring theme today, impacting everything from tech investments to airline stocks. And speaking of companies facing uncertain futures, Starbucks is set to report earnings after the closing bell today.
Their recent leadership shakeup, bringing in former Taco Bell executives, has certainly raised eyebrows. Whether this new leadership will successfully translate their fast food experience to the coffee giant remains to be seen. Investors will be watching closely to see how this gamble plays out.
It's a fascinating case study in leadership transitions and corporate strategy. On the one hand, you have fresh perspectives and potentially innovative ideas. But on the other hand, there's the risk of a culture clash and a disconnect between past successes and future direction.
Yeah, and it all unfolds against the backdrop of a recovering yet still fragile restaurant industry. We'll have to wait and see if Starbucks can brew up a winning formula for success in this evolving landscape.
Okay, so we've got a mix of reactions from consumers today. Small investors are riding the Nvidia wave, buying the dip during yesterday's market plunge. Yet recent credit reports show signs of stress among higher-income Americans. What do you make of these seemingly contradictory trends?
Well, it highlights the growing economic divide in our country. While some are capitalizing on market volatility and emerging technologies, others are grappling with rising costs and financial anxieties. It's a stark reminder that economic recovery isn't a monolithic experience. Different segments of the population are experiencing it in vastly different ways.
And this disparity will likely shape future market trends and policy decisions. It's a crucial factor to consider as we analyze the economic landscape. But before we get lost in the complexities of economic indicators, let's turn our attention to some under-the-radar stories that might be flying beneath the headlines.
You're right, there's always more to the story than what initially grabs our attention. Sometimes the most intriguing developments are the ones lurking just beneath the surface.
Exactly. So let's peel back some layers and explore those hidden gems.
Sounds like a plan. Let's see what we can uncover. Okay, so let's start with the curious case of Hindenburg Research, the short-selling firm that abruptly shut down in mid-January.
Their website has since been hacked, adding another layer of mystery to this already strange situation.
Right. Hindenburg was known for its aggressive tactics, publishing in-depth reports that exposed alleged corporate wrongdoing, and often leading to significant drops in company valuations. They targeted a wide range of companies, from established players like Econ Enterprises to up-and-coming startups like electric truck maker Nikola.
So they weren't exactly winning any popularity contests on Wall Street.
Not at all. Their investigations often ruffled feathers and made some powerful enemies. And this has led to speculation that the website hack could be retaliation from a disgruntled company seeking revenge.
It sounds like a plot straight out of a financial thriller. Who knew short selling could be so dramatic?
Yeah, it's a high-stakes world with big winners and losers. And sometimes those lines between business and personal vendettas can get a little blurred.
Absolutely. And while we wait to see what unfolds with that saga, there's a potential shakeup brewing in the healthcare industry. Robert F. Kennedy Jr., a vocal advocate for alternative medicine, is being considered for the position of Secretary of Health and Human Services.
This has sent ripples through the healthcare sector, particularly among food as medicine startups, who are hoping Kennedy's appointment could translate into greater government support for their industry.
Right. They're optimistic that he could really champion their approach to healthcare, potentially leading to increased coverage of these services under government health plans.
It's definitely a development worth watching. If he's appointed, it could signal a shift in healthcare policy, potentially moving away from a traditional pharmaceutical-centric model towards a more holistic approach.
Yeah, it would be a significant departure from previous administrations and could have a major impact on the direction of healthcare in this country. Speaking of significant departures, did you see that Google renamed the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America on its Maps app?
I did. It's certainly raising eyebrows. Google claims this change reflects government updates, but there's been no official confirmation from any government agency about an actual name change.
So is this just Google being Google, making bold moves without necessarily consulting all the relevant parties? Or is there something more to this story?
It's hard to say for sure. I mean, Google has a history of pushing boundaries and sometimes acting unilaterally, but this particular move seems oddly out of character for them.
Yeah, it definitely feels like there's more to this story than meets the eye. Maybe it's a technical glitch or a miscommunication, or perhaps even a deliberate attempt to stir the pot. Whatever the reason, it highlights how even seemingly simple things like geographical names can become caught up in larger narratives and power dynamics.
You're right. It's a reminder that we should always question what we see and hear, especially in today's world where information can be so easily manipulated and disseminated.
So true. If we kind of zoom out from these individual stories and look at the bigger picture, what are the key takeaways from today's news cycle? What are the recurring themes that stand out to you?
Well, uncertainty is definitely a major theme. We see it in the volatile markets reacting to the emergence of AI, the political landscape shifting with a new administration, and even our geographical maps seemingly subject to change at a moment's notice.
It feels like we're living in a time of constant flux where established norms are being challenged, and the future feels less predictable than ever.
Yeah, and amidst all this uncertainty, we see individuals and companies trying to navigate these choppy waters. Some are embracing the change and seeing it as an opportunity, like those small investors buying into Nvidia, or the food as medicine startups hopeful about a potential shift in healthcare policy. Others are struggling to adapt, like JetBlue grappling with industry headwinds, or General Motors facing investor anxieties about the future.
It's a mixed bag of reactions, for sure, reflecting the diverse ways people are experiencing and responding to this period of transition and uncertainty.
Exactly. And it underscores the importance of staying informed, being adaptable, and questioning assumptions. We can't rely on old playbooks or take anything for granted in this rapidly evolving world.
What can our listeners do to kind of make sense of it all and navigate this uncertainty effectively?
I think it's about cultivating critical thinking skills. Look beyond the headlines, seek out diverse perspectives, and question the narratives being presented. Don't be afraid to challenge conventional wisdom, and dig deeper to really understand the underlying forces shaping our world.
That's excellent advice. Developing those critical thinking skills is essential for making informed decisions and not getting swept away by the tides of misinformation or hype.
And it's a continuous process. The more we learn, the more we realize how much we don't know. Staying curious and open to new information is key to navigating the complexities of our world.
Well said. Now, before we wrap up our deep dive into today's news, there's one last intriguing detail I wanted to bring up.
Oh, I'm intrigued. What is it?
Did you know that tax season officially opened yesterday, January 27th?
Ah, yes. The annual ritual that everyone loves to procrastinate on.
Well, maybe not everyone loves it, but it's certainly something we all have to deal with. And this year, there are a few key things to keep in mind.
Absolutely. President Trump's conservative agenda could lead to some significant changes in tax policies. We don't have all the details yet, but it's something taxpayers should be aware of as they prepare their returns.
Right, it's always wise to stay informed about potential policy changes that could affect your finances. And on a more practical note, the IRS is urging taxpayers to file electronically and choose direct deposit for refunds to avoid delays.
Good advice. The sooner you file, the sooner you can potentially put that refund to good use.
Exactly. And speaking of putting things to good use, we've covered a lot of ground today. From market swings and Musk's ventures to government shakeups and hidden news gems.
It's been a whirlwind tour of current events, but hopefully we've provided you with some food for thought.
You know, it's interesting how all these seemingly unrelated events can actually be connected when you look at the bigger picture. We've got tax season starting a potential shift in healthcare, a volatile market influenced by AI advancements, and all of this against the backdrop of a new political landscape.
It's like a giant puzzle where each piece influences the others. Understanding these connections can really help you make sense of the world around you.
Right. It's not just about knowing the individual facts, but also about understanding that interplay between them. You know, the cause and effect relationships that drive events.
Exactly. So as you go about your day, keep those connections in mind. How might the outcome of the Nvidia situation impact future tax policies? Could a change in healthcare policy affect consumer spending habits, leading to further market fluctuations?
It's like a chain reaction with each event potentially triggering a cascade of consequences.
Right, and being aware of these potential ripple effects allows you to anticipate challenges, seize opportunities, and ultimately make more informed decisions in your own life.
It's about connecting the dots,
Hmm.
seeing the patterns, and understanding the forces at play.
Precisely, and that's what we aim to do here on the Deep Dive, to equip you with the knowledge and insights to navigate this complex world.
So to our listeners, stay curious, stay engaged, and keep asking questions.
Because the more you understand, the more empowered you become.
Well said. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into today's top stories.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deeper.